Chapter 12. An incredibly hairy white pencil case. I didn't actually get the chance to give Jane her present straight away. She was standing with her friends and they all huddled together and started giggling when I came through the gate. Mum gestured at me to go over to Jane. I stood behind a tree, pretending not to know who she was. Thankfully, the bell rang soon, and we all trooped inside. As I was hanging up my coat in the corridor, I tried to slip the gift bag with the doughnut into my rucksack. I was hoping Jane wouldn't have noticed it. I should be so lucky. "Oh, you look smart, Roman," she said, practically yanking the gift bag out of my hand. "A present? For me? Is it what I think it is? Oh, thank you." "I thought we could share it," I offered. Worth a try, I guess. Jane screwed up her face. I'm not sure. I think it's bad luck to share a present with the person who's just given it to you." "Oh," I said. "Well, I've never heard that." "Trust me, it is," she said quickly. "You can sit with me at playtime while I eat it, though. It'll be so romantic." Yeah, I thought, romantic, like watching Feeding Time at the zoo. At that moment, Rosie Taylor suddenly appeared. "Everybody, status update. Roman's bought Jane a present." Everyone else went, "Ooh." I felt myself blushing bright red. "Present?" said Gamble, elbowing his way through. "What present?" Oh, great. Jane licked her lips. "Well, if I know my Romy-Womy, it'll be a big blob of raspberry jam all wrapped up in yummy, scrummy, squidgy splodge dough." "Where's mine?" said Gamble. His baked bean head was slightly twitching angrily. You're not his girlfriend," said Jane. "Ah, shut your gob, toilet face," replied Gamble, grabbing it off her. "He promised me one yesterday." "Oh, do something, Roman," cried Jane. "You're meant to be my boyfriend." I probably should do something, I thought. But then again, this was Darren Gamble we were talking about here. On his first day in school, he told us all that he'd once been arrested for headbutting a police car. I decided not to intervene. Jane huffed out her cheeks. She reached forward for the gift bag, but Gamble ducked out of the way, pulled out the unwrapped doughnut, rubbed it under his armpit, then offered it back to her. "Still want it?" Before she could answer, Mrs. McDonald stomped into the classroom. "What is the meaning of this?" she snarled. Gamble innocently hung up the gift bag on his peg. "Oh, nothing, miss." Rosie Taylor stepped forwards. "It was all Roman's fault." Oh, typical. "As if my day wasn't bad enough this morning already," Mrs. McDonald tutted. "I'm not interested in your silly squabbles." "But," said Jane. Mrs. McDonald raised a chubby little hand. "I've got enough problems of my own, thank you. All of you, into the classroom now." Jane looked like she was about to cry. On his way past, Gamble shoved his face right in front of mine. I don't want to be horrible, but his breath smelled like, well, imagine an old lump of cheese if it learned how to fart, and you might be halfway there. I thought he was going to punch me or threaten me, or something worse. Darren shook my hand. "Thanks for the doughnut, mate," he said. Mate? Wonderful. Thanks to the deadly doughnut, I was now mates with the craziest kid in our class. Inside our classroom, Mrs. McDonald took the register in a flat, irritable voice. Jane was sobbing in her chair, but Gamble wasn't bothered at all. He was bouncing up and down, waving his hand about. Next to him, Miss Clegg was filing her nails. "What is it, Darren?" said Mrs. McDonald, not looking up from the computer. "Oh, miss, you said you were having a bad morning, miss. Why, miss? Were you drunk last night, miss?" A few people tittered. Mrs. McDonald pursed her lips. "If you must know, this is the reason why." She reached behind her desk and pulled out an enormous cage. It was so big it practically filled the front table. There was a big "wow" as everyone surged round it. "Oh, is it a rat, miss?" Gamble pressed his face right against the bars. "Do you want me to sort it out, miss? Do you want me to shoot it? I can get an air rifle. Roman will hold it still for me." "Certainly not," said Mrs. McDonald. She opened a little door on the cage and pulled out what looked like an incredibly hairy white pencil case. "This is my prize-winning guinea pig, Mr. Wiggles." "Oh, yuck," said Rosie Taylor. "Rodents are disgusting." Mrs. McDonald brushed its long, fluffy fur with a tiny silver comb. "Actually, Mr. Wiggles is a valuable pedigree piggy-wiggy. There is nothing disgusting about him. He's probably cleaner than some of the people in this class." I wasn't the only person who glanced at Gamble when she said this. The hairy white pencil case tried to crawl up the sleeve of Mrs. McDonald's cardigan. She pulled it out. "Ooh, it tickles. He's always trying to play hide and seek." "Why's he in school, miss? Is something wrong with him? Has he got worms like my dog?" said Gamble. Mrs. McDonald took a deep breath. The guinea pig tried to burrow under her sleeve again. "Certainly not. I've had to bring him into school because, well, he gets lonely on his own, and I've sacked his babysitter." "A babysitter? For guinea pigs? Good grief." "What did you sack her, miss? What did he do?" asked Gamble. "Was she playing football with him as a ball?" "No, of course not." "Did she nail him to the wall and then throw darts at him?" "Definitely not." Did she tie him to a firework and shoot him into space?" "Actually," said Mrs. McDonald, covering the guinea pig's ears, "I've given the babysitter a special diet sheet for Mr. Wiggles to stick to. Smoked salmon, grapes, cherry tomatoes, orange juice. You know, the normal foods for a guinea pig." "Normal? Mr. Wiggles eats better than me." "Anyway," continued Mrs. McDonald, "she must have been feeding him unhealthy snacks instead. Look, this is what he used to look like." She pointed at a framed picture of Mr. Wiggles on her desk. "And look at him now. He's obese." She held up the guinea pig to prove her point. A couple of people in the class gasped at the difference. In real life, he looked fairly similar to the picture, i.e., like a Cornish pasty wrapped in a wizard's beard. However, I have to say that since the picture had been taken, he did look like he had been given a few blasts with a bicycle pump. I remembered her phone call at the aquarium. Mrs. McDonald had been talking about someone putting on weight. I'd assumed she was talking about a person, a human, but she must have been talking about Mr. Wiggles. Mrs. McDonald rubbed her nose against the guinea pig's nose. "It's the British Guinea Pig Championships at the weekend. How can I defend his gold medal from last year when he's so overweight? The head teacher says that I can keep him here to control his diet. It was that, or I had to have a week off." Rosie Taylor put up her hand, but didn't wait to be asked before speaking. "Miss, you know that American singer, Indigo Termite?" "No," said Mrs. McDonald wearily. "Well," said Rosie, "on secretcelebritygossip.com, it said that she lost 8 stone in 2 weeks by eating only powdered eggshells and garlic. You should try that with your fat hamster." "A guinea pig," huffed Mrs. McDonald. "And no, I will not. Those diets have terrible side effects. The BGPA, that's the British Guinea Pig Association, would never allow a guinea pig with bad breath to win the title." "Oh, can I stroke him, miss?" Gamble asked. "Under absolutely no circumstances," said Mrs. McDonald, placing the guinea pig carefully back into his cage and clipping the door shut. "And that goes for everyone. Mr. Wiggles has only just come back from his hairstylist." His hairstylist? Wowzers. "Now," said Mrs. McDonald, carefully placing the cage next to the sink, "in today's English lesson, we were going to write about our aquarium trip. But I've changed my mind. Instead, we're going to write a letter of complaint to an irresponsible guinea pig sitter."